Tonight, we're getting our first look at a woman accused of cashing checks without showing up for work.
Norfolk officials say that this went on for 12 years. Jill McGlone used to work for the Norfolk Community Services Board, and you're looking at pictures from her Facebook page.
Now, we did talk with her husband, who does not deny that she was cashing in all those free checks. Norfolk officials continue to investigate the Community Services Board. They say Jill McGlone, an employee at the agency, received in cash paychecks, even though she hasn't shown up for work in 12 years. We took our questions to George Pratt. He served as executive director of the Community Service Board for 10 years.
Don't have any earthly idea how something like that could happen. If it happened, I don't know that it did.
Is it possible?
I don't think so.
The city attorney told 10 on Your Side Jill McGlone was making a salary around $30,000 and getting regular raises over the last 12 years. She could have pocketed almost $500,000. Senator Side caught up with McGlone's husband. He didn't deny that she received the paychecks.
I have no comment. I'm sorry.
City officials tell us McGlone must have had some help to pull this off.
There were multiple procedures in place to build a budget for people to get reimbursed, to get their salary and that sort of thing. Have no earthly idea how that could happen.
Officials say one, if not more, employees inside the agency must have been working with McGlone.
Tonight, 10 on Your Side breaks new revelations in the case of a worker paid for work she never did. Jill McGlone worked at the Norfolk Community Services Board, but when she stopped showing up in the late 90s, she continued getting paid for 12 years. Andy Fox has new developments on why McGlone left the CSB in the first place.
A well-placed Norfolk City Hall source confirms former Community Services Board worker Jill McGlone was disciplined in 1998 for divulging private information about a patient's medical condition. Sources confirm McGlone was placed on paid leave, which we now know continued unchallenged for 12 years. Another source confirms at the same time of the disciplinary action, McGlone was in the process of filing a complaint against one of her fellow CSB workers. We've gone to McGlone's house in the past, but she always says no comment, except through the door yelled, "I want to tell my story." When Norfolk CSB Executive Director Maureen Womack got tipped off that McGlone was on the payroll, she stopped the payments. Womack also fired the Director of Administration, Brenda Wise, saying Wise knew about the get paid for no work arrangement.
I really am sorry that you came all the way to my house, and I'd just like to politely say that I really cannot talk about this.
Also fired was Director of Clinical Services Anthony Crisp. 3 other top-level employees were also sent packing. This insider told us she questioned management when McGlone's name kept popping up on employee reports.
I was not familiar with the employee, and the supervisor would just say that she was a former employee. He said to ignore it and just consider it an error.
Now, 10 on Your Side questioned the head of the CSB at the time, Dr. George Pratt. He first told us he has no idea how McGlone kept getting paid. When we went back again after Norfolk Police, State Police, and the FBI began their investigations, Pratt opened the door, said no comment, then slammed the door closed.
I'm Sandra Parker.
And I'm David Allen. Regina is off tonight. First at 5, an employee on your dime collects paychecks for 12 years without showing up to work. Now, 13 News has learned managers at the Norfolk Community Services Board may have known this was happening.
Well, the case of the ghost employee is under investigation by the city's attorney's office. 13 News reporter Patrick Terpstra is in our newsroom here to explain more to us. Patrick?
Well, it sounds like a great gig. Get paid an average salary of $30,000 a year with full benefits and never show up for a day of work. Now we've learned her bosses may have known about this for years. Norfolk's Community Services Board got a new director last year, Maureen Womack. When Womack was combing through the budget this spring, she discovered a support staffer on the payroll who had not shown up for a dozen years. At an average salary of $30,000 a year, she may have taken home $360,000 of mostly taxpayer money, and she got full benefits. Is Miss Womack available to talk to us?
No, she is not.
We wanted to interview Womack, director of the CSB, but we got her assistant instead.
This isn't for us to talk about, and we have no further comment, and we can give you the attorney's office.
Okay, why won't she answer questions?
Well, right now she's in a meeting. So.
After a meeting, will she answer our questions?
I think that the city attorney needs to handle this.
City Attorney Bernard Pishko told us the ghost employee used to show up to work until termination proceedings began against her 12 years ago. Apparently, they were never completed. Pishko said it appeared managers knew about this, including former Executive Director George Pratt. City Councilman Barclay Wynn said what happened at the CSB was criminal.
Anybody that sees this is going to wonder, how could this happen?
And I'm one of those people that wonders how it's happened. It's as a business person, it's almost incomprehensible to me that that went on.
The CSB offers mental health services. It gets money from the city, state, and federal governments, but is independent with its own board of directors. Today, all of the board members referred me to the city attorney, who told me he will likely forward his findings to police in the coming weeks.
Community Services Board has finished its internal investigation. They're looking into how Jill McGlone collected all of those paychecks. Well, tonight, some of her co-workers are out of a job. 13 News reporter Karen Hopkins is here with more on how in the world something like this could go on for how long. Karen?
Well, David, we're told a group of employees were in on this plan. That's how McGlone didn't work but got paid by you, the taxpayer.
I was shocked and angry about what happened.
Finally speaking out on how a government employee could earn a living without showing up for work for more than a decade. When the new Community Services Board Executive Director Maureen Womack took office, she says she noticed something suspicious, a name on the payroll she didn't recognize, Jill McGlone.
This investigation of corporate integrity was long and complicated.
Womack eventually discovered McGlone was placed on leave 12 years ago, but ever since, employees have been filling out timesheets and benefits for McGlone. She earned about $29,000 each year with automatic yearly raises, totaling well over $300,000 for doing nothing. Womack says 5 workers knew about the wrongdoing, 2 were fired and 3 were forced to resign Friday.
I want to sincerely apologize.
Womack says the previous executive director, Dr. George Pratt, signed off on all of McGlone's paychecks. Pratt wouldn't talk with 13 News.
We will take all necessary steps to do the job right going forward.
The state will audit the CSB's financial and business practices. All 300 staff are being trained on mandatory reporting of wrongdoing.
The CSB Board of Directors is determined to hold accountable those responsible for this waste of public funds.
Now, we visited the homes of the employees involved tonight, but no one would answer. And also, criminal charges and even a civil lawsuit could come next, depending on the evidence found. And the FBI, the Inspector General, State and Norfolk Police are also investigating this case. We're live in the newsroom. Karen Hopkins, 13 News.